What a wonderful afternoon we had so far. I hope that you can hear us here live from Zurich. I'm here still together with Marc-André, the president of Samba, and we will head into round number 2 of the Sustainable Leaders Conference. The panel of Marc-André. Marc-André, tell us just a little bit quickly, what is the goal of this panel? Where are you heading to?
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk with experts in sustainability and especially impact, also regarding impact measurement. How do they do it? So each company has their own strategy, because measuring impact is not as easy as it sounds. So therefore, I'm very keen to know more about how they do it.
All right, let's dive in. Marc-André, it's your word, it's your time, and your guests are already waiting.
So welcome back, everyone. For those who have recently joined, as you said, I'm Marc-André Schauregger, president of Samba, and I'm doing a PhD with Professor Judith Walls, that you have heard before, and especially regarding impact measurements. So I'm very keen to learn more from our experts. So now I would like to start with our panel 2, impact investing and measurements. So let's start with a short introduction regarding impact investment and measurement, especially regarding ESG and SDG. So in 2015, more than 190 countries committed themselves to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the so-called SDGs, by 2030. So this is quite ambitious, but, and they are designed to ensure sustainable goal, social and economic development and strengthen universal peace. As investors seek to align their investment practice with SDGs, for example, they struggle to find out how to determine whether they are contributing to progress towards their goal. Impact investing, as term, impact investing, was founded as a hybrid concept relating to the combination of traditional investment decisions and philanthropic social objective. Impact investment can be distinguished between the traditional finance by applying a non-financial objective of creating social impact as well. The impact investment process has similar elements to traditional investment, with a focus on risk-return ratio. The traditional investors pursue solely financial returns, disregarding any environmental and social or governance, so-called ESG criteria. And then sustainable investing is a bit different. So the targets investment in businesses that are creating value through ESG-friendly practice. And a social responsible investor attempts to protect value by detecting and eliminating investment that poses potential ESG risks. Social responsible investment, so-called SRI, is more about minimizing the negative impact from an investment decision by implementing ethical aspects where environmental or social impact is considered. So you can differentiate between impact investing, sustainable investment, and responsible. It sounds a bit similar, but it isn't the same. So, but what is impact? Measure impact is difficult and adds a new dimension of complexity for social ventures compared to other companies. At the same time, impact assessment is important to track performance, and it is also fundamentally for impact investors. So just by saying your investment or your social project creates impact is not a proof. So the thing is, many NGOs and also countries or also investors have good intention to contribute, have a positive impact, but if they don't measure it, you don't know if it's true. So for the other world and financial part, we measure it and we can prove it, but many reject to also track and measure if their impact of their investment is also really what they want. So most indicators of impact investing are quantitative and focused on the output level of the result chain, but they not always lead to positive impact. And impact evaluation should be focusing on the ascertainment of how much of certain change is attributable to the action. So it's all about change, that you can measure the change that has happen because of your action. So we are very pleased to have with us today some of the top leaders of organizations who have proven to successfully implement sustainability and impact in their business model. So let's welcome our great panelist, Dr. Miriam Staub-Bisang, CEO of BlackRock Switzerland, then Mr. Giovanni Leonardo, CIO of Schroders, then Mrs. Henriette Wendt, COO of Microsoft, Mr. Reto Schnarwiller, he is Chairman of Responsibility and also Head of Group Sustainability of Swiss Re, one of the leaders in sustainability, especially in insurance, of course. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Janine Handel, CEO of the Roger Federer Foundation. So please, Janine, the floor is yours. We will show now a short video of your great foundation, sorry.
When I visit the preschools we support, I see children filled with joy. They are full of eagerness to reach their potential. It is a privilege that through my foundation, I can be part of their journey. I started my foundation back in 2003. 1, 2, 3. It is incredible how much I've learned and how far we have come. Today, we support early education programs in 6 countries in Southern Africa and Switzerland. I strongly believe that a good start in education is crucial to empower children in a sustainable manner. Over 1 million.
Access. Okay. Access it. Jetzt kann ich wieder. Okay, gut. Jetzt gesehen.
I'm not sure if everybody doesn't have any tone of the video.
No tone.
Okay, so the floor is yours.
And curiosity to discover the world.
Hello. So we are back. Janine, the floor is yours, please.
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to actually have a direct connection. I hope everybody out there can hear me. You can see I have not that fancy background from MBA Association, but I'm sitting actually in a hat in Lesotho and just having had a launch of our latest school readiness initiative. That's what you couldn't see on the map of the video, that we could add Lesotho, and I just had the launch with the Minister of Education and Training, where we formally head off to another country in our portfolio. Happy to be here. Looking really forward to that discussion because impact is all what matters. And therefore your introduction, Marc-André, was very interesting because for us, coming from a philanthropic sector, impact is what we are doing since decades. And I would even say we might be the specialist in having impact. And it's the whole impact investment movement, which came in a little bit later, which will be interesting to learn how you do it. But when you mentioned, Marc-André, that this is about change, yes, it's about change, but it's about sustainable long-term change. And that sometimes is something I'm looking forward into the discussion, is not always happening. Change cannot just be on an output level or even not at an outcome level. It really needs to be on an impact level. And being the only representative of the philanthropic sector here in this round, I must underline, we are performing heavily as the business sector is doing, but the only difference is our return on investment is purely social instead of financial.
Thanks a lot. Now, Reto Schnarwiller from Responsibility in Swiss Re has a presentation.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm still trying to share that, but I think you need to give me presentation rights, or why don't you show up the slides and I can, here we go.
Now it should work. Yeah, please. We can see it now, it's loading.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
So I'm happy to be here on the panel this afternoon, and as an introduction, I would like to say a few words about three areas. I'm in a privileged position to first talk a little bit about Swiss Re's approach to sustainability and what we do it, and especially why we do it. And then say a few words about responsibility investments, which is an impact investor. And last but not least, also a few words about the African Leadership Group, which is a collaboration that where Swiss Re is involved, helping them with the education challenge that we see across Africa. So on the Swiss Re side, we have been in sustainability for a long, long time. Our first publication actually around environmental challenges and the sustainability has been issued in 1979, so a long time ago. And more recently, we really reinforced our sustainability efforts with a new sustainability strategy. And it covers what you can see here on the left, our 2030 sustainability ambitions, which focus around climate risk, the energy transition, but also societal resilience, because at Swiss Re, our goal is to make the world more resilient. And last but not least, it's about driving affordable insurance with digital solutions, because we see that, especially in emerging and developing countries, there's a massive protection gap. And with technology, we think there's an opportunity to close that gap. Our principles at Swiss Re are also threefold. First of all, sustainability is not a side activity that we delegate to a foundation or to our CSR department, but it's really about embedding sustainability in everything we do. So making it part of our core business. Obviously, we also see this as a business opportunity. So we really want to lead when it comes to sustainability solutions and innovative products. And last but not least, and I think that's the link to our topic today, it's about quantifying the performance, it's about target setting and key performance indicators. So I think we'll come back to that in the discussion later on. The second perspective I would like to bring into this panel is about impact investing. And responsibility is one of the leaders in that field. Established in 2003, by now we manage roughly around $3.5 billion in private debt, private equity, but exclusively in emerging and developing countries. And over our time of existence, we invested more than 10 billion into these areas. So there's quite a bit of a track record. And we focus exclusively on three areas. The first one, sustainable food. Obviously, that doesn't require a lot of introduction, a very important topic. Second one, financial inclusion. That's actually where it all started with the microfinance movement, and nowadays more into SME financing. And also there's a strong angle to fintechs, where we see a lot of transformation happening in many of these developing countries. Last but not least, obviously, climate is also here a massive topic. And we see here a number of very innovative investment opportunities, whether it's in the solar space, whether it's in power plants for hydro, etc. So a lot of interesting stuff happening in that space too. Last but not least, and probably a bit less familiar to most of you, is the African Leadership Group. And here the main challenge is that obviously the population in Africa is growing quite rapidly. So by 2035, Africa will have the largest population in the working age. with over 1 billion people looking for employment. So this is going to be a massive challenge, and all these people, they will look for opportunities to work. They will maybe think about starting their own business, and they need to be properly trained for that challenge. They need to go through a good education system so they're ready for that challenge. And at Swiss Re, we teamed up with the African Leadership Group to develop the School of Insurance, because we think insurance will be fundamental and instrumental in that transformation, in creating all these jobs for African countries. And that's why we teamed up to establish a number of different programs focusing really around the future of insurance, around data sciences, artificial intelligence, etc., to really make this a very attractive program for the young generation in Africa. So let me stop here and hand back to Marc-André.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the presentation and your initiatives. It sounds very interesting. So now I hand over to Ms. Wendt. So from Microsoft, as many of you might know, that also the founder, of course, of Microsoft is very well known to do a lot of philanthropic projects. So I'm very keen to listen to her. Of course, it's not about Mr. Gates, so it's about Microsoft. Please. Go ahead.
Yes, and very, very interesting projects, but that he's actually not, that's not active with Microsoft right now. So what I thought I'd just describe very quickly, and we can of course jump into questions, is a little bit about what we are doing at Microsoft, and then how we believe we can impact the sustainability topics. So for Microsoft, we have 4 topics when we talk about sustainability. 4 topics that we care about. One is diversity and inclusion. For us, this is a very important topic. Made a lot of statements and commitments in that area. Also very focused on accessibility, making technology accessible for users, and doing a lot, of course, also on inclusion and diversity in all our countries, promoting minorities and women and underprivileged segments. The second topic for us, super important, is trust. Trust is important when we talk about technology and we talk about data these days. We've made, for example, a statement around how we believe from an ethical perspective we should go around AI. We have a manifest for responsible AI, the dimensions that we believe are important in that context. The third one is about skilling and training people, preparing young people, and again, people who are not necessarily privileged, especially currently in the COVID situation, how we can help people move from a situation where they don't have a job to where they have a job. Also leveraging our LinkedIn assets. We have, as you probably know, we bought a LinkedIn some years ago, and they also have quite a lot of learning capabilities and training opportunities. And the last one is sustainability, which is, of course, the more important topic here today. Climate is a very, very important topic for us. And starting this year, really, we've really, I would say, hit the foot on the accelerator and made a number of quite important announcements. The first one being, of course, that we not only want to be carbon neutral, but carbon negative. So we want to take out all the carbon that have been emitted since the foundation of Microsoft by 2050. And at the same time, we also committed an investment fund of about 1 billion, recognizing that this will take new types of technologies and new types of solutions that we don't necessarily see today how we're going to address, but we believe that it's important that we leverage both technology and innovation. And not surprisingly, of course, we believe that technology is a very, very important element in addressing sustainability, not just in terms of innovation, but also in terms of the amount of data that is required to analyze, and in order for us to both monitor and understand, but also to identify insights and actions. We've also addressed a couple of other areas. I'm not going to go into all of them, but at a high level, we talk about waste, we talk about water, and we talk about biodiversity, and have a number of initiatives in all of these areas. again, backed up by technology and data, because we obviously see this as a fundamental way of addressing a huge challenge like this. We looked at, in Switzerland, what is it that we can do? We looked at what do our customers care about? Based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we noted that two in particular stand out. One is climate action, and the other one is responsible consumption and production. And that's what we are currently focusing on in Switzerland, because that's what our customers care about. And when we think about what we can do in Switzerland, it's about what we do internally, but it's also at the same time about what can we do for our customers and partners. So how can our technology help customers and partners address their ESG targets? And we actually calculated, with the help of EY, calculated that theoretically, when we go through our industries and what we can offer with our technologies, that we could actually address some 18% of carbon emissions in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And when we look at impact, I think it's important also to think about when we offer these types of solutions to our customers, that we also participate ourselves and our role models in that area. And I think when you look at Microsoft globally, we've done quite well from that perspective. But I would say there are two areas particularly we can help. We support customers and partners is in first of all, in reducing their emissions through our technologies, for example, by leveraging cloud technology. And the second one is by creating transparency. By helping customers understand what does it mean, helping them address targets and being able to calculate the impact. We have, for example, started building what we call the carbon calculator that enables customers to see when they go into the cloud, what does that actually mean? What have they saved in terms of CO2 emissions? So overall, we focus, of course, on technology and innovation. We believe that everyone should be in the organization really can and should be involved in this and trying to educate our employees as well in order to help our customers, which means that for us it's also a cultural journey and a leadership journey, which includes, as I said, not just us, but our customers and partners, and really building up an ecosystem in Switzerland of other key stakeholders, which includes, of course, associations, academia. We work a lot with startups as well. We have some really interesting startups in our family, so to say, and consumers, and finally also government and regulatory bodies, of course, which have a huge impact in this area as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Now I hand over to Mr. Giovanni Leonardo from Schroders. He has also a presentation. I think until he has enabled to share, can you please do that? And in the meantime, I again mentioned that you can ask, push the button, ask to the moderator a question if you are interested in a...
You see my screen?
Perfect, it works.
Mm-hmm. It works? Oh.
Yeah, floor is yours.
I'm getting used to technology. I just put together a short overview because I thought that we at Schroders are mostly known for asset management. But in fact, we are doing a lot of things. And first of all, we are not only an asset manager, we are also a bank. But the beauty is that we are using the same knowledge for all the clients, for the institutional who go to asset management and for the private clients. And if we now move to slide 1, I started my journey in SRI 20 years ago. It was a little bit too early, so the market did not really accept the idea that actually ESG is a opportunity and also a risk factor. And as long as not as many participants accepted that, it had no impact on the companies. Now here you see that also Schroders, I didn't start my career at Schroders, but also Schroders started really, really early in 1998 with corporate governance, and it embarked actually in a journey to foster this ESG thinking in the whole company. And you see the latest steps I already moved one page. The latest step in our journey, 2019, 2020, we went and said we want to become net zero carbon. So that's a pretty strong commitment. We were traveling a lot. Now COVID stopped a little bit the traveling, but not only that, and also we want to get fully integrated in investments. So what we offer to the client is a full integration of the ESG thinking. The reasoning, you can read it down here, is that our CEO really believes, and we all believe actually, that this is an opportunity which creates value for investors. And it's you need to have an impact to create that value. And I think that's the underlying belief, that we are building our way of living in the company along the same idea as we are trying to then impact the other companies or other partners we have. What does it mean today? We are now in a journey since 20 years, small steps and new developments. We developed 10 indicators, 10 tools to measure the impact. And if you do that over a long period of time, you can see if something changed through what you have done with this company. So it's a way of having impact on companies. Today, it's also a way to having impact on fund managers. So we use these strengths on the opposite side. And what I think also is important is our engagement. On the right-hand side of the slide, you see that we are engaging with 1,750 companies across the globe. I think that's a key thing. We were doing that already now since years, and we can measure the impact of our engagement on the companies themselves and on the fund managers, which is the second thing which has really started in the last few years, where we use our size to make them change, actually, to make them adopt the new ideas from this ESG journey. The integration in our case is we believe you have to have a complete package to do that in the company. It's not only the communication, which is done a lot, but you have to train the people, to train them to understand and how to improve in all the specific fields. We monitor the targets we have defined and analyze where we have gap internally, but also with our partners. And then we spent a lot of time. It's still work in progress. You see it on the left-hand side. It's the ESG tools we have developed is to measure the context. It's one of the tools which is more company specific. SustainX, it's a very nice thing. I would have loved to have it had 20 years ago. It's a way to quantify based on academic studies what is the impact of the companies, which means you can make a fair value valuation. And then what is, I think, a key theme we have heard from everyone is thematic research. In what fields should you be where you can really foster the change in the economy. Now, I just wanted to show you, because it's about measurement, I thought it would be nice that you have a view on how we spend the time to find out, context is a tool where we have different stakeholders and we measure how does the company impact these stakeholders. We are pretty transparent. We're going to discuss that then also with the companies, which can lead to very good discussions and allows maybe to drive some change in the company. I'm going to come later on how we can drive change. SustainX is a little bit the opposite thing. We quantify different academic studies, and when we then meet the companies, we try to find out if we are wrong or right with our assumptions on the potential cost or penalties they would have or the opportunities they would have. But also there you see it's not only about the investor, it's about customers, employees, communities, and the governments and the environment. So it's a very, very large spectrum we are doing. And how can we transfer that to our companies? I think one basic thing of investors per se has to be that you have to be active. Active means you have to engage with your companies, with your partners. You need a dialogue with them. It's not only voting. You need to have a constant dialogue, and you have to vote. Just that you see how active we engage with these companies. That's on the left-hand side. You see in blue how we managed to get some change with the company, so with request and discussion we had. And sometimes the red one is fact-finding, to find out if we were reading the newspapers, we were wrong. And you see that it's done across the globe. That's the beauty of being in a big institution. in a smaller one, it's going to become much more difficult. Now, voting, it has been already discussed. How can you have an impact? And obviously, one of the impact is if you take your responsibility and you take your vote seriously when you vote in these companies. You see here, 2019, it's the last column. I mean, we had 61,000 resolutions, around 6,000 meetings. But what I think is important is that we voted sometime against in 13% of the cases. And actually, in some parts of the resolution, we also voted against. So it's not that we just follow the crowd. So we really have an active, how do we say, voting, decision-taking in our company, which is important when you manage money. It's a responsibility you have. Now, what I think is not well known, actually, and I think that's why I did the presentation like this, is that we really care since a long time about ESG. I think it's one of the most important factors whenever you evaluate a company to assess their potential and their future. We need some scale to make the difference. You see, we have it now. I mean, we have a lot of meeting, and we have the objective of integrating the whole ESG in all our products. Actually, end of this month. So it's pretty close. We are UNPRI signatory, so that we did. We are in the top 10. I think all of that might be known or is not known. The last thing I wanted to mention is in our journey, we also invested accordingly. We have now Blue Orchard with us. It's a leader in microfinance, one of the leaders. And actually, this was an active decision that we move also in that field, where you then see the impact more directly than if you do it just through investments. It's also a little bit more easier measurable. And I think that's also something we can then give access to our clients. And I think at the end, the client has now a lot of instruments to take his voice and address the issues by also moving capital. And one of the strongest measures to do is to move your capital or walk your talk. I mean, that's I think, the key message. Now, there is no excuse to say you cannot do it. You can do it on every level of our offering, and we also measure what we do. And now the disclaimer, as usual. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So you have already covered your way of measurement. It's very good. Now I would like to hand over to Ms. Dr. Miriam Staub-Bisang from BlackRock. As many know, they are also very, very active in ESG and sustainability investment.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark, for this kind invitation for this afternoon. Very pleased to be here and on this great panel. I don't want to use too much time in introducing BlackRock and its approach, to leave a bit of time for the discussion afterwards. I would just like to highlight the key items of BlackRock's sustainability strategy and approach, which has been going for a couple of years, but then I would say culminated in this year's early January communication to CEOs, call it Larry's letters to CEOs, where we came out with a couple of commitments as a firm that we wanted to fulfill by the end of this year. These commitments revolves around three areas being, one being the integration of ESG across all investment strategies. The second one about democratizing access to sustainable investing solutions and increasing the products on our platform. And thirdly, to be much more transparent about our approach on engagement and stewardship. This all, the strategy resides, I would say, on two important pillars. For BlackRock, sustainability and its approach to sustainable investing is not about primarily social impact, but rather stems from our fiduciary responsibility for our clients' capital, in the sense that we have the responsibility to ultimately maximize risk-adjusted returns for the clients that we invest the money for. So it's all these people, employees who entrust their pensions to BlackRock, but also private savers and so on. And so when we thought about sustainability and how to kind of bring it in sync with our investment objectives, we came to the conclusion that this is about risk. Sustainability and climate risks are investment risks, and taking that belief into account when investing for clients, it is obvious that integrating ESG criteria, ESG data in the investment process is the only way to go forward. So we set ourselves this goal to integrate ESG risks and opportunities in all our active investment strategies. When we think about sustainable investing, and here now having a focus on impact investing, there are two aspects that are very important for us at BlackRock and when managing clients' money. First, it was about designing specific impact investing strategies where the focus of, or the investment objective, is not only about maximizing risk-adjusted returns, but also the investments are made with the intention to generate positive, measurable social and environmental impact alongside a financial return. So here we speak, for example, about infrastructure investments. We speak about green bonds investments, but we also speak about private equity investments for impact, but also public equities investments for impact. And here the key criteria are, one, the intention to have the impact, secondly, that the impact is measurable, but thirdly, we adhere to the so-called operating principles for the IFC for impact investments. And here the key criterion is additionality. We want to make sure that the outcome that we strive for with our investments would not have occurred if it wasn't for our investment. So that's kind of the big picture on our impact investment strategies. But then overall, and that's the second aspect, and then I hand over to you, Mark, it's about our activities in stewardship and engagement. This is a dialogue we have with companies boards, executive boards across the world, and where we focus on addressing sustainability and predominantly actually climate risks in this dialogue. We want to hear from the companies to what extent they have identified climate risks in their businesses and how they set themselves up to mitigate those risks and set themselves up for success in a low carbon economy. We expect companies to inform transparently about these risks and their strategies, and regularly, and if they don't comply with that request, we actually take voting measures against those companies and would vote against board members and so on. So we're very much committed to making an impact there for the benefit of our clients. Mm-hmm. So that's it in a nutshell. And I think we even have 20 minutes for discussion now.
Yes. Time is running. So thank you very much, all of you. So I would like to know from you, maybe if you could provide us a concrete example, how you would measure or how do you measure impact? For example, Janine, she explained me very well how she does with the Roger Federer Foundation for Education project. And I think it would be great if you can share this, because it's great what you're doing, because a lot of foundations are just saying that they are doing good things, and you really make sure that you are doing what you're saying.
Yes, impact you need to measure, otherwise you can even don't know if you get any impact, and you cannot learn. So measurement has to do with, on one side, to know your achievements, but on the other side, really about learning how to even become better. And maybe because the tone out was not in the video anymore, I'm not sure if the auditors have really grasped what we do. We are currently in a strategy which started 2019, which is completely aligned with the Sustainable Development Goal 4.2. This Sustainable Development Goal says all boys and girls need to be school ready before they enter into grade 1. So we aligned as well our whole measurement system alongside of the 2 global indicators of the Sustainable Development Goal, which is the first one, every boy and girl should at least participate in organized learning 1 year before primary. But the second is actually much more interesting. It says children need to be developmentally on track before entering into grade 1. So when we started that strategy, I called UNESCO and said, oh, could you please share with us, your Excel monitoring and evaluation sheet, so we can take on all the sub-indicators and align our implementation around that. But the answer was, there is none. These global indicators are actually the only one which we provide, and we approved in 2015 at the UN. And there is no definition of when is the child developmentally on track. So because they said that's something which needs to be defined on a national level. Now, if you look around in Switzerland, there is nothing such a national definition when a child in Switzerland is school ready. Neither in Lesotho or wherever we go in the world, maybe some very advanced nations are, but normally it isn't. So what we had to do in order to really see whether all our package of interventions, which are mobilizing stakeholder around the child, committing that the child is having a good start into education, improve the learning environment, capacitate the teacher that he is able to deliver, include the parents that the children become school ready. We had to develop a child development assessment tool, which actually also we do digital. So we developed different apps for a so-called early learning kiosk. And one of these apps is this child development assessment tool, where the teacher can, for the first time, based on the curriculum, conduct up to 250 activities, which are all aligned with the curriculum domains, which are from that national curriculum in the country we are working in. And then during these children do these activities, the teacher is able to assess. We are in Malawi, sometimes you have 200 children in one class. So all they are pre-registered, and the teacher is just able to click on not mastered, mastered, fully mastered. And at the end, it swaps up how many of the class are in green, how many on orange, how many on red. And it comes along with recommendations. What can you now do really to fill the gap in that development? You can do that, and he can even generate a report towards the government and the schoolmaster. So here, digital learning, digital measurement comes in. That is a very easy measurement, because it's really based on these activities. I think what is challenging is to measure when it comes to quality measurement, so not just quantity measurement. When is a community committed enough to engage into the child's education? But also here, we have developed, or we are developing, a fully digital M&E system, where the field officer of our local partner organization, we are always working through local partners, is really to to be able to understand each and every indicator, key performance indicator in the system. Because our learning of the last 10 years was really, you can have the fanciest indicator, key performance indicator, if only the monitoring, the evaluation officer in the headquarters of an organization understands it, you will not be able to collect accountable data. And it's really the people out in the field who need to be able to understand what is this data about, who needs to approve the data in the indicator and say, this is a realistic indicator I really can collect, because many times, you know, even we sitting in Zurich, we create indicators which then in the field, in a local context, doesn't make any sense. And then he can, even if he sometimes has forgotten what is this indicator for, on the tablet as well, he can look, go into the information button, he receives all the information about the indicator, and then we hope that there will be accurate data at the end. So yes, we are having 6 impact indicator on a child's level. So impact always needs to be on the child when you do education. We have around 12 outcome indicators, which are regional wise in the whole programs, applicable on the teachers level, on the parent level, on the community level. And then, of course, also we have the output indicators. So these are really the first one. How many trainings did we do? How many sessions did we do? How many books were delivered? How many, whatever. So, but that's all actually not the interesting ones. And it's very important, I think, that we should not just aim for these output level. So how many grants were made? How many meetings were made, but really aim for outcome and impact level at the end.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Because time is running, I hand over now to maybe Reto. Maybe if you can make it short, we discussed it, and I think your company, especially also Swiss Re, is doing something very special. Also, I think maybe the bonus related topic. This one you could maybe mention that, but try to keep it short that everyone can reply or say something. Sorry, because time is running.
Yeah, thanks. And also thanks to Janine for highlighting this very nice storyline, because it clearly shows that you need to be innovative, you need to be creative, because those standards have not yet been fully developed, right? And I think I fully agree that we need to move from just output measurement to really measuring the impact that those efforts, those investments really have. And for example, at Responsibility, when the company was established in 2003, even the term impact investing was not yet around, and not to mention any sort of impact measurement criteria. So we also had to develop quite a bit of that. And we started with first output, like how many loans have we deployed, etc., and then to how many jobs were created with those investments. Later on the energy side, if you provide kind of off-grid energy to people in rural areas, the question is, how many people will have access to that energy? How do they use it? What kind of activity can they create with it? So I think that's a remarkable development that only happened over the last 12 to 15 years. Maybe specifically to your question, also at Swiss Re, we try to link our activities to the SDGs. And obviously we do that on the investing side, we do that on our insurance business, and also on the operational side. And there, one of the focus areas is always on climate, as I mentioned in our strategy. But more recently, we came up with specific KPIs that measure our sustainability performance. And those KPIs form part of the overall compensation of the company. So at the end of the year, our board of directors in their compensation committee, they look at the targets that we set ourselves around sustainability. And then based on that assessment, that will have an impact, for example, on the variable compensation of the entire company, but most specifically also on our group executive committee members. So that's a very specific area, and obviously we continue to refine that. So the first targets were more qualitative in nature, and now we try to make them more tangible, more quantitative. And obviously we measure them throughout the year. We try to also set specific incentives. So this really becomes a general movement across the company. But let me stop here in the interest of time.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Maybe Ms. Henriette Wendt from Microsoft, and then at the end, Miriam Staub.
Thank you. Yes, so very good indicators you've already talked about. Of course, we also measure internally our impact. For example, when we created our targets for where we want to be in terms of carbon negative goal in 2050, it was actually, well, of course, that's quite a lot of work in order to be able to understand, first of all, where you are, what you use, and how you get there. And we are, as you can imagine, very fond of data, so we try to measure and report as much as we can. And here I think it's important to say, of course, that we look at scope 1, 2, and 3. A lot of companies, or some companies, report mainly on scope 1 and 2, but it's important to include also scope 3, which on average can be up to 7 times bigger than the others. So that was very important for us. But when I think about what we do, is also what we can help our customers measure is very important. So we started looking at how can we help our customers through the use of our technology understand what is the impact on climate and emissions that they can have by using our technology. So for example, if I start leveraging technology that helps our employees stay at home, they can then eliminate travel, they can eliminate flights, they can eliminate ground travel, and then help them understand what exactly does that mean? How do you calculate that? And what will the impact be of leveraging that technology? And we've done that now for a number of, well, for all our solution in a number of different scenarios. And we will expand that so we can help our customers, most importantly for them to understand where do you see the impact and become more transparent when they leverage our technology.
Thanks a lot. And maybe now Miriam Staub.
Yes, Mark. As I indicated before, and I just want to shed a bit of light on how we measure impact with our investments in private markets, and perhaps a few words on listed equity impact investments. On private markets, our focus is on private equity and private debt investments in renewable power or green bonds that eventually invest in green infrastructure projects in emerging economies. And what we look at is that for each individual project, we now in renewable energy, we calculate how much water we're saving, how much carbon emissions we save, how many jobs are being created, and what the community benefits are with that job creation. And we do that for both our investments in green bonds and essentially green infrastructure, but also our direct investments in green infrastructure, in renewable power infrastructure, and developed a specific approach accordingly, something which we actually co-developed with our clients and report to them regularly. Now, that I think is more standard when it comes to public equities. That is a very hotly disputed topic, whether you can actually have impact with investments in public equities, because there's actually not new capital coming to a company, but rather you invest and the share price goes up or down. And in order to make sure we have impact with our strategy, we look at the additionality we have with our investments, and from that, based on the idea of the theory of change and how our investments will help to make a difference and help to solve the problems we're trying to address. And so in public equity investments, we look at two aspects. of investor contribution. We look to the additionality an investee company, a company actually has with their leading technology, innovative business models to address the problems of this world. And then on the other hand, the additionality we as an investor have by helping this company, especially a smaller cap company, get new capital and, for example, be listed on the stock exchange. I think that's an area where we will see much more innovation in the future, because there's always the question of correlation versus causality. How much is the result actually correlated? How much is the result of your actions actually caused by your action? And that is the big topic, again, hotly disputed, about the impact that you can have as an investor when engaging with companies, when pushing a management to take certain strategy changes. Was it you're pushing? Was it somebody else that's just pushing? Or was it just a smart CEO and the board which decided a strategy compliant or aligned with low carbon economy is a smart way to go? So there might be correlation, but not necessarily causality. So here we're actually doing a lot of research, and we want to make sure that as we're very cognizant of all the risks of greenwashing, we don't run the risk of impact washing as a large asset manager. That's a key risk now of being exposed to public scrutiny. So this is it in a nutshell. I see we have 2 minutes. Maybe Giovanni wants to say something.
I fully agree with you. I think we are working heavily on reporting, actually, so making the impact transparent to our clients. So what we try to do is to have the carbon footprint of the portfolios that they can compare against the benchmark. What do we see as social benefits, their portfolio compared to the benchmark, such that they can grasp a little bit what's happening, because that's the big challenge. I mean, how can the final owner of the portfolio realize what it is? And the other thing is to be transparent. We publish every month the voting behavior of our company. So where we did vote, what did we vote? So I think transparency is the key for that. And the last thing, which is a big challenge, is we have started to do lunch and learn, where we discuss the indicators with all the employees, because the problem of indicators is that not everyone has the same understanding, and that's the big challenge we face currently.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we are already done, but we received another question from the audience. So I would like to ask Ms. Wendt from Microsoft. Does Microsoft's ERP system Dynamics 360 supports impact investing and impact measurement? So maybe to conclude, can you maybe... Yeah, sorry, we cannot hear you.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
now it's...
Dynamics allows you to do that. There's a lot of different elements to Dynamics that you would need to consider. But yes, fundamentally, it allows you to bring out those data. I think ERP is only one set of data, of course. You need to think about all the other elements that you need to bring together, depending on what you want to measure. So yes, of course, you can do that with Dynamics, but you need to consider what data do you need and where you're going to get it from. It's a much bigger exercise to find all the data and to analyze it and to create it, to put it into a compatible format in order to use it, than to put it through the reporting of the ERP system. But yes, of course, we can do that. But building the data estate and having all the relevant data is a big piece of work you also need to do in parallel, of course.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks. Thank you all for this very interesting discussion and for your precious time. And I would like to announce the break of 15 minutes. We will start again at 15 15:50, and in the break you can watch our video how to network, because we really developed this tool for you, that you can network during the breaks and also of course during the sessions, the live session. So while we are streaming, you can also chat with each other, see the profile. If you can click on recommendation, then you see like the top 10 people who match with your interest and goals, and then you can request a meeting and then maybe set up a meeting after this conference or whenever you find the time. So I look forward to the next discussion at 15:50, and thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to be part of this discussion.
Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the demo on how to network on eTrain. eTrain offers you the opportunity to network with other participants and speakers at the event. Its unique features help participants meet new people and make meaningful connections, not only during the conference, but also after the conference. So let's start. Once you have joined the conference, you can see who else is attending the conference and can initiate conversations. Go to the participants icon, browse to see all participants, check their profiles, and if interested, initiate an instant chat. If you want to formally set up a meeting and have a video call with this person, you can also take advantage of our unique Set Up a Meeting functionality. Click on Set Up a Meeting button. This will lead you to the calendar of that person. You can see time slots of when the person is available and click on the time slot that you are interested in. A pop-up screen will appear. Fill in the details and send the meeting request. The receiver receives an instant email from eTrain notifying him or her about your request with all details such as who sent the meeting request, what time, and the details of it. He or she can click on View Meeting Request. This will lead them to a window where they can accept it, reject it, or also propose another meeting time. Once they choose the option, an email will be sent to both of you. If they accept it or propose a new date, you will receive an email and you can then both join the call in the proposed slot. This gives each participant complete control over their meetings and conversations, avoiding unwanted disturbances from those who you are not interested. You will be able to see all the messages and meeting requests sent by other participants in My Profile. So just go to My Profile. You can also share your calendar by simply going to the calendar icon and copy-pasting the link to your message. Now, too many participants to decide whom you would want to talk to? You can click on the recommendation menu and view top matches for you. Our exclusive matching algorithm recommends custom-made matches for you as per your profile and background. View their profiles, know what their interests are, and initiate a conversation on similar topics through chat or video call by setting up a meeting. To improve your networking experience, we highly recommend you to update your profile. To do that, go to My Profile and change the settings. Make sure to upload a high-quality profile photo and complete your profile by going to Edit Profile, where you can choose to upload yours. And provide your Unhappy Networking